I thought tonight we could paint a simple little landscape, something like this. This is one of my ACEO sized cards. It's 2.5 by 3.5 inches, so it's a little guy. Of course, you're welcome to make your painting any size you want, but this is the kind of composition we're going to do. So I picked out a few colors. These are my mission colors. I'm going to use Oxide blue, yellow ochre, and mountain green. And then I picked a brighter yellow for some of the landscape, and I believe that is the gold brown yellow. So why don't you grab some natural landscape type, oh, and sorry, and I'm going to use this Vivianite blue color here for the water. So grab a different shade of blue. This blue here is going to be the sky, so you'll want just a slightly different shade for your water. And then have a little paper towel handy. We're going to dab out some clouds. Okay, so grab your stuff and I'll be right back and we'll get started. So I'm going to use a flat brush to wet the sky area. And if you'll remember from some of my other videos, you just don't want to cut your paper directly in half. You either want it to be more sky or less sky. Let's take a look at this one. Looks like this one, I kind of did more sky. So I'll probably do that again because I really like clouds. So I will try to come a little ways past half with my water. So you're just going to get some clear water on your brush, whatever kind of brush you have. We'll go ahead and wet that. And it's summer here, so stuff's drying very quickly, so get it nice and wet, just so we have some time. And mine's not completely straight, but that's fine, because it's a landscape, and nothing is completely straight in nature. So, okay. So I'm just going to use this medium-sized round brush for now, and we'll start with your sky color. Okay. And so here's this blue that I'm going to use. And the way I do it is, as usual, I hold the brush quite loosely. And I kind of just like put streaks in. There goes Oso. And just start out lightly. And you're leaving white space as well. And then you can add some darker values too. So once you get it the way you like it, we can set our brush aside and we can grab our little towel and we can kind of just dab off and just make some natural looking clouds. And because it's wet on wet, it's going to, you won't have any sharp edges, so it'll look pretty natural. So I like that. I might just come back in under some of the clouds that I just tapped out and add a little more interest. And because it's still all wet, it'll still dry softly. And I'm just going to bring this in. Okay. While it's still wet, I'm going to take my yellow ochre color and I'm going to turn this around so I can work on it more easily. I'm going to take my yellow ochre color here. And what I'm doing is like starting to add some tree line. And you don't want it to be perfect. It can be very imperfect. And these are just going to kind of bleed up into your sky. There'll be background trees. And then you can go ahead and drop some of your green in there. We're not doing any details right now, just go ahead and just drop those in there. Okay, and now is the fun part. I love this part. So get your brush just wet with some clear water. And while this is still wet, you're going to pull it up to your tree line, and you're going to just kind of, what we're working on is some land, and then we want the center to be water. But again, not completely in the center. You want it to be a little off center for the composition. Okay, in uneven, because obviously a body of water isn't going to be completely not straight, right? And if you went a little overboard like I did, you can dab some of it off. So this will be our body of water, and we're not going to do that right now. So now I'm just going to start adding some landscape colors. So there's the deeper yellow, and then now the brighter yellow. This would be like spring or summer grass. Okay. So now you're developing your river channel just without even trying. And now take some of your green. And just carefully, don't cover up all your yellow, but just carefully add some yellow. I mean, green. Okay. And then I usually make the front corners a little darker. Okay, and one little thing that I like to do is now rinse your brush totally and dab it off on a towel. I want to lift off some of this. I think it creates depth and interest. So I'm just going to take a couple of places. And so all you're doing is, it's called a thirsty brush technique. So you've got a clean brush with just water. Dab it off on your towel. Sorry, dab it off on your towel. And then lift off some of this paint. And see how it's kind of giving you the lighter areas. So you're kind of building up. It's a very, very easy way to build up depth, I think. Okay. So now we're entering our ugly phase. So every painting goes through an ugly phase where it doesn't look like much. And so we have to let this dry completely, and then we can come back and keep working on it. So yeah, don't fiddle with it like I am. Okay, I'll be right back, and I'm going to dry mine. Okay, you can see how light and soft everything looks right now. So I am going to switch to a smaller brush. I think I will grab this Princeton number 2 long round brush. And I added a couple new shades of green. One's an olive green and one's undersea green. Okay. And we are going to start deepening our tree line. So again, I'm going to turn this around. So now everything's dry. So now you're working on it dry. And we're still not going for a ton of detail. So I'm just going to start, again, loosely holding. And I am just going to kind of tap and make them uneven, not a straight line across. You want some variation. And I'm picking up a couple of colors. You could even throw some of your ochre, your yellow ochre in there. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing that we did before and start blending. But this time I'm going to leave some of that yellow. I'm just taking clear water. And now we're going to start adding some texture. Sorry. Oh dear. Oh dear. And I am going to take clear water and I'm going to soften all of this. Okay, so what we need now, we definitely need more of a dark area at the base of the trees because this is all just blending in. So this would be, let me try I'm going to try more undersea green. Just a thicker, yeah. So you can toss that in. Now you're not drawing a straight line, you're just kind of like dotting it in here and there, and you can bring some up. Okay. So I'm just kind of taking it straight out of the palette at this point to get it nice and dark. But again, see, it's not a straight line. I'm also going to add a little bit more of the brighter yellow is what I was looking for. Out here. I meant for that to be a little bit brighter. Okay, and that's layer 2. So we'll go ahead and dry that and then I'll be back. So I think you can see that the depth is starting to build up and the textures are starting to build up. So I think we can go ahead and switch back to a bigger brush and grab whatever color you wanted to use for your water. And we're going to kind of do the same thing with the water. I'm going to dab some off on my towel. Kind of like, because I kind of want to like dry brush if I can. Like I want to leave white. I don't want to cover up the whole thing with blue. And so if your blue hits the yellow here, it doesn't really matter because it's going to make green and everything else is green anyways. So just add some dabs of darker blue as well. And then what I like to do is grab a brown. Oops, that's not brown. There's brown. And so I just kind of work messy on the palette. You can let some of your colors blend and that's fine because we're working loose. Grab a smaller brush. I'm going to go with one of these pointy brushes. And I just kind of want to, I'm going to dab off on the towel again. So I don't have too much brown, but I want to try to add some, like the banks of the river, right? Would kind of have grasses and, but again, not covering the entire thing, just here and there. And you can even like bring it out. And just in order to do some perspective, you'll just want the stuff in the foreground to be a little bit bigger. So just bring these out a little further, and then back here they'll be smaller. So something like that. So we're kind of just creating some interest in the landscape. Nothing crazy. And then while it's still wet, you can go in and just add some darker brown here and there. You could even use black or Payne's gray, something like that. I don't know where my Payne's gray is, so. Okay. All right. We'll leave that for now. And we'll come back to our regular size round brush. And I do want to add a little bit more green. So here I grabbed a little hooker's green, which is a little bright, so I'm going to mix it with some of this this ochre. And again, I'm going to dab it off because I don't want to go crazy and I don't want to cover up what I've got here. I'm just trying to add a little bit of texture, but keep the underpainting visible. So see how lovely that is? So again, this is just hooker's green mixed with some of the yellow ochre. And if you tap off your brush, you can keep a light hand. So look at that. Amazing. Okay. So we can come back and work on the tree line a little bit. So I'm going to swap to, let's see, one of my smaller brushes. We'll try one of these. And go ahead and grab some deeper green. I'm going to go back to undersea green, which is like a deep green from Daniel Smith. And we're just going to add a little bit of detail to our tree line. We're not going to go crazy. Have a drink of tea. But, so this is a very fine-tipped brush. So I'm just going to pick a couple of these individual trees. And I'm just going to start kind of shaping them like a fir tree. Or a pine tree, depending on where you live. And you're kind of just letting the brain like do most of the work. So it doesn't have to be anything spectacular, because it's in the distance anyways. Let me zoom in for you a little bit. So we're just basically doing the treetops. And I'm just kind of skipping my brush back and forth. And then you can go in and drop a little darker, and you could even come back in with some of your yellow and add some of that to your tree line. It kind of gives a look of distant trees. And then here, just add some shorter ones here. And here I'm picking up more light yellows, just for a little interest. So just adding some yellowish tree tops here. These will be kind of even more in the distance. So we're really creating some layers of trees with very little effort. gonna just darken up some of this. Again, not drawing a straight line, just adding some darkness here and there. And then vary the heights of your trees as well. And then go back in and add some yellow to this side as well. Okay. All right. So we just added basically treetops and then a little yellow here and there. But look at how it looks like layers of trees, and honestly, we didn't really do that much work. So I'm still not happy with this dark line. I want mine to be even darker. So I'm going to go find my Payne's gray, and I will be back. Okay, I found my Payne's gray. That's this bluish, dark bluish gray color over here, which if you don't have it, I don't usually suggest people buy specific colors, but it's a wonderful color. It's very versatile. And it's great for adding drama. So I'm going to use my very pointy brush again. And I'm just going to add, just skip it over. And not in a straight line either. We're gonna, you can bring it forward a little bit. It's hitting some of the places that are still wet, but that's okay. And you can bring it up into your trees a little bit so it's not just a straight line. And then I'm going to turn it around and rinse off my brush. And I'm still using the pointy brush. And I'm just going to try to soften this up a little bit because we don't want any harsh lines. So I don't love this little bit right here. So we're gonna try the thirsty brush technique again. I'm gonna grab my round brush, dab it off on a towel. I'm gonna try to pick that up. See how that softened it up quite a bit. And I just keep dabbing it on the towel and there, it's gone. So you can fix mistakes in watercolor. So thirsty brush is a technique that I would love for you to practice and learn. It's super helpful. And then since I did find my Payne's gray, I'm also going to add a little here along the bank of the river. Just darken it up a little bit. Nothing crazy, just a little contrast there. And I also don't love how I have like this block where I added that. So I'm going to thirsty brush again. So dab, dab, dab. Let's see if I can pull some of that off. All right, so one other thing you can do is grab a little, now that it's wet, I got it wet, you can kind of dab at it. And it's actually lifting some of the paint off. And now that I've lifted some of that off, I'm going to go back in with a little bit of the yellow. Just to brighten that up a little bit. And it's a little more atmospheric that way. Yeah, I like that better. It's almost like a mist or a fog or something. Dab a little bit of that off. Okay. And just drop a little more green in now that it's wet. It should blend out a little bit better. Okay. All right. I think we're almost done. So I'm going to come back here to the corners and add a little darker, the same way. I'm going to try to keep, don't cover up any of your lovely work, but and dab it if you went a little too far. But so now we have so much variation in the landscape. I think the last thing that we need to do, one other thing I see, I'm not crazy about this little blob right here. So I'm going to blur that out with some water and dab. Just to break that up a little. There. Lovely. Yeah, the last thing I think we need to do is just add a few grasses in the front. So you'll want it to be totally dry for that. So go ahead and dry it and we'll finish it up. So now I added some browns to my palette. And I'm going to stick with a skinny brush. And I'm right-handed, so I do need to turn this to get my grasses in there. But we're just going to, again, not go crazy. Don't go overboard, but we just want to add, it's like a grassy field in the summer. So we'll just add a few brown, green, yellow, just kind of can have it coming out of the riverbank. I'm trying to curve some of mine. And again, you'll want them taller in the front because it's closer to you. And then if you do any further back, just make them smaller. Sorry, my hand was in the way there. But so they're taller in the front, smaller in the back as you go back in the distance. If you got it too dark, you can always dab it. Okay. The only other thing I see that I want to do is I want to, just like we darkened up the land in the front, in the corners, I kind of want to darken up this blue. So I'm going to grab the same blue that I used for the water, but I'm just going to, dab it on my paper towel. I'm just going to lightly, very, very lightly, kind of darken up the stuff in the, and now I'm just using clear water to kind of blend that out. So I'm just trying to get it a little darker here in the front, and then as it goes back, it can get a little lighter to the eye. So something like that. Yeah, there, that works. All right, so this would be the time you look at yours and see if there's anything else it needs. Maybe some birds in the sky might be nice. Yeah, I might add a couple birds over here, I think. Over here. Yeah. So let me find some black and we can add a couple birds and then we'll be done. Okay, before we add our birds, let's just go ahead and practice a couple of times. I still have to practice mine, so just find yourself a sharp pointed brush, and I'm just using black, but again, it's like on the palette with all the other colors, so it's kind of getting blue and brown in it and stuff like that. Dab off on a paper towel, because you don't need a ton of paint for this. And basically you're just going to, but see, you need more than that. So I dabbed it all off. So we're just going to do like 3 small V's. Can you even see those? Oops, no you cannot. So we'll just kind of do, so just practice doing some V's and have them, you know, the birds can be different shapes, but don't like get too freaked out about it. And if you don't want to ruin your painting by doing birds in the distance, then don't do it. But I'm going to be brave. Be brave. Okay. So, let's see. I'm going to, like I said, I think since the river is meandering this way, I'm going to, I think, put them right over here. There's one. There's like a hair coming out of my brush. Okay. Try that again. Okay, so just do 3 or 5, just do an odd number of birds. And if you got it too dark, like that one, the first one was a little dark, but that's okay. I think it'll be fine. So do your birds, and then I think we're done. So we'll peel off the tape and take a look. Okay, let's peel the tape. And by the way, I use painter's tape, like from the hardware store, like to paint your walls. So that's what this purple tape is, but it's delicate surface tape, so it pulls off pretty easily, or at least I find it peels off nicely. Still have to go slow though, and at an angle. Like that. All right. And there you have it. What do you think? I love it. I think it's beautiful. Reminds me of a wonderful summer day. So I hope that you like yours, and I will see you next time. Thanks for being here. Take care.